right, Josh Powell, former player, NBA champion, uh, philanthropist as well. You do a lot of work in the community, and we've talked some time now, and we've kind of shared some stories with each other just about mental health in general. We've talked about some of our own personal struggles. And so I just wanted to sit down with you today to kind of just get a little more in detail and to share with some of the people some of our deep conversations that we have, with the hopes that everyone else will start speaking up and speaking out about mental health to help erase the stigma. So, I mean, I'll let you kind of just get into it. So I just want to know really, like, what's your take on mental health?
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you I'm appreciative for the opportunity. I'm always humbled to be asked what my thoughts are and my opinions on different topics. So, for myself, what mental health means to me, I think that it is one of the most important things that I make sure that I am constantly caring for and nurturing day to day, because there are so many things that we deal with and the things that are happening, and it's important for me, my peace and just me being in a good space, despite the things that have been going on. So I definitely know that it's something that I cherish, and not only for myself, but my family members and people that are close to me. Is something that I preach often, to make sure that we're doing the things necessary that we need to do to make sure we're in the space that we need to be in.
Right. Now I can remember, when we first talked, you told me especially how mental health was really important to you, and so I just kind of wanted to maybe start even from the beginning, from some of our conversations, such as a lot of people look at you and they're like, oh, you're this star, in which you definitely are. But at some point you were a young child, you picked up a basketball and did some amazing things. So can you tell me, take us back, to childhood and compare it, to now, as far as your mental health and how things maybe from your childhood could compare to now?
Well, a lot of people wouldn't believe this or not, but I definitely had a lot of anger issues. I definitely was very short-tempered, just dealing with a lot of things growing up, whether it was me being removed from my house because I had to go live with my grandparents, the divorce that happened when I was a young child. I remember when my mom got, remarried and having other siblings, just really getting used to a different way of life versus what I was used to.
Right.
Just being accepting of life and things that were going on. And it took a lot of work. I mean, even back then I was seeing a counselor, a therapist rather, somebody to try to help me through and help me navigate, the things and the emotions that I was feeling. But through time, especially the older I got and the more I matured, I was able to find peace and understanding, which has helped me just take a different approach versus the anger and the snapping or the shutting down or things like that. Just looking for the positive pieces in the trials and the tribulations. So I just think naturally that'll come with growing and maturing and just understanding and doing more work. Being older, you understand life a little bit differently. Being a parent has definitely, in itself helped me mature a lot more. And, the game, what it has taught me, obviously on the court is one thing, but I've used the game to teach me a lot of things as a man and as a person and as a father off the court.
That's true. So you said I guess the anger and maybe being removed from your home, divorce at a young age, dealing with other siblings. Sometimes people don't necessarily, they're not as quick to admit that, and sometimes it's unrecognizable. How old were you when this was occurring?
I think the reason being real quick is because children are resilient. They adjust. But I think that us as parents or people that are around or in these kids' lives need to be more understanding to how they're adjusting. because they can internalize a lot of things.
Right.
And for me, fortunately enough, I had sports. You know, what about those kids who may not have sports or a way to let that out in a positive manner? You know,
Right.
what if there's somebody who doesn't have the resources to get a therapist or talk to the right person? So I was, you know, fortunate to be in a position where, shoot, I can play sports. You know, I can play football, I can play baseball, and do those things to kind of get it out. But then too, I also had a good support system. You know, like my mom, my grandparents, cousins. You know, just certain people that definitely had my back and you know was a good place for me to go to talk to, you know, or let some things out whenever I had something that was on my mind.
So whose idea was it for you to go to therapy?
I believe it was my mom's.
Your mom?
Yeah.
And were you
Because
younger
especially
then?
things that was like in school.
Oh,
So it might have been a collective, like, hey, there's something going on, you know what I
Hey,
mean?
parent-teacher conference.
Yeah, so I took a lot of that stuff pretty hard. And I wasn't like the class clown type of dude, but it was more so like, just like I said, just real snap or shut down or kind of be in my own space. You know, wasn't really snapping out of the space that I was in.
Where was your father? I know you mentioned your mom, your grandmother.
Yeah, he was in, well, when they first went through the divorce, he was in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through visitations, but then he ended up getting locked up for a while. So, you know, that was, again, another thing, just having to adjust and deal with. So I'm not saying that he wasn't around, it's just the distance and,
But it's
you know,
certain
not
things
seeing
like
him as
that.
much. Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
tough. You know, that's heavy.
We all know that you're a father now, and knowing the childhood that you had, and you had sports and everything as your outlet, what do you do as far as parenting tips for your kids, and what are some of the things that you may talk to them about or try to help maintain like that mental health stability now that you know and you grasp that idea?
Well, I mean, they're here. I probably should ask them. But no,
Hey guys.
I think one of the things is being present. And I feel that a lot of us with this day and age, whether it's due to our phones, our jobs, our personal, like just life going on, it happens. You know, nobody's perfect or exempt from just kind of getting lost in what you have going on. Just making sure I take the time to have conversations with them, share experiences and moments with them, to build and connect with them in a way where they're open with sharing. Also, too, making sure that they get their therapy and have someone else that they can talk to, because sometimes kids will not talk to their parents.
Right.
That's just natural.
Right.
And sometimes they feel more comfortable going to their friend's parent or a teacher
Right.
or an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent. You know, that's just natural. So I just try to, you know, talk to them as much as possible. Sometimes just going to watch a movie or, you know, being intentional with some of the things that we can all view together that have messaging, right?
Yes.
Like The Hate U Give. That's one of the movies that my kids love, right?
Really?
That whole story, and it talks about racism. It talks about so many different things. Granted, my kids are young, you know, younger, but it was still a cool thing to expose them to because it's still real and there's certain things in there that you can use as life lessons.
Right.
And that's one way I like speaking to them is through movies and films. Like we'll watch stuff together. We'll catch shows. We'll look up. We'll research things. You know, we'll you know, going to church. Like just different ways. I just try to create that bond and just get them to know, you know, that they're loved and they're appreciated, and just, you know, making sure that avenue is open so that they can talk. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
And that they want to talk whenever something does arise.
Right. And we all know that suppressing those feelings, it just makes things like build up and build up and build up. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And like I've told you before, we all know that you're like a father of the century. You definitely love your babies. They're here.
You got half of the Power Rangers
I say
on
half
deck.
of the crew.
Yeah.
And they're so cute. They're just well behaved. And I can just tell they love you a whole lot.
Well, their auntie gave them some candy today, so.
Well, their dad said it was okay. And now they're really, really nice to me.
Right.
Okay, so let's fast forward. I know that your kids, they mean the world to you. When you were in the league, I know that you were on the road a lot. I know that, your time was divided up. How did you manage being on the road, playing, for long periods at a time and not being able to see your children the way you probably would have wanted to? Do you think, what mental space would that put you in? Because I can tell you love your babies.
For me, I just try to stay focused on the task at hand. Mm-hmm. You do your job and you stay focused and locked in on that. But whatever time that I have, just being able to talk to them, being able to, FaceTime wasn't popping like that back then right. as it is now, mm-hmm. Because I started my professional career in 2003. Mm-hmm. So, now we have our phones where we can click a button and you can see who you're talking to, versus back then it's just your voice, or you might be able to use Skype or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I just think, reading to them, talking to them, letting them hear your voice, just small things by telling them you love them, just stuff like that. Mm-hmm. is
and have them come to games whenever they can?
All the time.
Really?
But back, like I said, they were so young, especially when they started school. It was kind of like, they got to go to bed. But whenever they can, it's always cool, and especially now. Like I'm playing in the Big Three now, and it's cool to be able to have them come with me on the road or be in the locker room or meeting some of the guys and just doing things like that and just having that experience is really cool.
That's really cool. It's just still spending that quality time, but still getting work done.
That's the biggest thing.
And I know exactly what my daddy does.
We can all, that's free.
Yeah.
I think people they underestimate the value of being present and spending good time with the people you love.
Exactly, because you can't put amount of money on time sometimes.
Absolutely not.
So when you speak of even back then, like you say, FaceTime, all of that, it wasn't as, popping as you say.
Right.
So, but for now, with the league and the guys that are in, it's a few of them that have still come out and they've talked about mental health, such as Rob Covington, Kevin Love, DeMar. What are your thoughts on that?
That the struggle is real. Everybody's views and their strength on how they deal with things is different. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of people that are expressing, the things that they're struggling with. It just goes to show, our human side. Mm-hmm. And I feel that a lot of times, because of what we do, or because of not just basketball, I'm just saying in general, people that other people look at like they have this large amount of wealth, or they're a celebrity, or they're this, or they're that they don't view those people as human beings, and that they don't have mental health issues, or that their parents don't get sick, or that they don't deal with certain things, right. Or that their marriages aren't good, or that they might not have the best relationship with their kids. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I feel like that piece is missing, and I'm glad that people are stepping up and saying, hey, I'm struggling with something. Because I think, too, the other part is the embarrassment. I think some people are embarrassed by their struggles.
The stigma.
And they need to take ownership of that and understand that is also their strength. There's beauty in that.
Mm-hmm. So, they're all speaking out now about it, and they're talking more about mental health. Was the league as supportive back then as they are now? Because it seems like now they're putting in some mental health initiatives.
I think people didn't view it the same, right?
What do you mean?
People didn't view mental health back then is the same as now, right? Like, understanding what the effects of certain traumas can have on you. And in my opinion, it's just me. I feel like it's like normalized that people look at, oh, well, especially in our community, right? It's the normal story.
Right.
Come from the hood, single parent,
Yep.
mom raised them. Where's
Yep.
dad? Like, that's the narrative. So then it's normalized, and people don't think that we suffer from it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now it's like, wait a minute. Now, okay, if this kid is going through something, right, that's an issue. We need to, talk about that. If a kid, growing up every day, if they're poor, just the fact that they're living in that environment, that's heavy.
Right.
For them it might be normal because that's all they know,
That's all they know.
but that still doesn't mean it's okay.
Right.
And that's the thing that I see is the difference, is because it was like it's normal. So many behaviors and things are normalized. It's not.
So what do you think now will make it better, like as far as like some of the kids that are still coming up in single parent households from the hood?
The resources, having examples of what it looks like, what healthy looks like. Understanding that you can go to somebody and talk to somebody about whatever it is that you feel, not being ashamed of certain things,
Right.
removing the embarrassment, right? Everybody goes through things. We have to get out of this thinking that someone is perfect.
Right.
So regardless if it's mental health or just anything, like we have to get out of that way of thinking and just understand that people are going through things. And it's crazy because the other thing is too, is we all express ourselves differently on the things that we are going through.
That is true.
And the people who act out or the people who are boisterous, like those are the easy ones, but the ones who are quiet, like me, I was quiet. I kept a lot to myself. I internalized a lot. And those are the situations that you have to look out for,
I agree.
Those are the ones that it's kind of tough because then you don't know what else could stem from that.
That's true. I know when I first started the Elephant in the Room, the charity, it was mainly because it was when social media, Facebook, it was coming along, and more people would start posting things and sharing more of their personal stories. However, it became a point where people would just share every single thing, and it would seem like, this person's doing this, and they'd say, just weird things online, and many people would like start laughing about it or talking about it, and I just looked at it through a different lens, and I'm like, well, they're not really acting out. This is kind of like a cry out for help. And I could tell that social media is still evolving, and I feel like that may have a lot to do with someone's mental health. I know it causes a lot of people to be stressed out,
has a lot
go
to do
through
with
anxiety.
Because social media is a whole piece in itself. And when you're constantly comparing yourself to somebody else,
Yes,
or their life or way of thinking,
that's it.
that could make you sick because you're constantly on that all the time.
All day.
I like to tell people all the time, regardless of social media or not, don't block your blessings. You're here on this earth for a reason. You have your own special journey. You're unique. There's not another you. Even if there was a twin, there's still differences between you and that twin.
Exactly.
So it's like we have to be grateful and thankful for who we are, how we're made, how we're handcrafted, and walk in our purpose. Find out what that purpose is.
Right.
What is your why? Like what is the thing that keeps you going every day? What allows you to get up in the morning with some good vibes in your heart and on your spirit? What are the things that inspire you or motivate? Like figure out what those things are.
Right.
But stop making those excuses. We all are vessels. And I tell God every day, use me however you feel is the best way to use me, whatever that is. And I've gone through it all. Whether it's been with my kids, whether it's been the divorce that I went through, trying to understand parenting, the transition from playing to not.
I was going to ask
so
you
many
that.
things.
How did you deal with all of that? I mean, in specific, from divorce, children in the divorce, and then also the transition Because a lot of people don't necessarily think about it. Like you said, they forget that you're human. And that's a lot to deal with.
So for one, I stay prayed up. I make sure I'm reading. I'm constantly researching, looking for food. When I say food, I mean spiritual. I'm always looking to be fed. And then I surround myself with people who are like-minded. So that's another thing that helps me continue to get up and do what I'm doing. It always seems cliche when people say how small their circle is, but it's a real thing.
Yes,
because in actuality, there's not many people who are going to view you and treat you in the manner of what you should be treated as. And that's okay. You know, I would rather have quality over quantity.
Any day.
And that's the most important thing, you know what I mean, for me, is just taking it one day at a time. I see a therapist. I do talk to somebody, you know what I mean, that I know is not going to judge me, that's going to treat me fairly, that's going to allow me to come into space and be vulnerable. If I want to be angry, if I want to scream, if I want to cry, whatever that looks like,
An unbiased.
I can just do that, right? And then figure out a healthy way to manage that moving forward.
Right.
And every day just leading with love. You know what I mean? Like, it's some of these things I've built within myself just because of my history and my past. So I'm very self-sufficient, but it doesn't mean that I have it all together.
Right.
But I do take it one day at a time, nothing more, nothing less. I just focus on the moment and what I could do right then and there.
So let me ask you then, because I know a lot of people ask me this question. They're so, I guess, maybe curious about therapy. And I tell people all the time, therapy is like one of the best things ever. You pretty much are, like you said, you get a chance to be angry, you get a chance to like yell, you get a chance to get out. Could you tell us about your maybe first or a couple experiences that you have with therapy for those that don't really know what to expect?
I just want to ask people, like, whenever they've had a chance to really be themselves, how did that make them feel? Because everybody's out here with a mask on, with our cape on.
How often is that?
So we're putting on this facade because we don't want people to judge us or look at us crazy. But in actuality, man, if you can walk in that and that's your strength, like, because that's who you are. And there's people who are definitely going through those things day in and day out. So
that's real.
I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just, it's a beautiful thing to be able to sit in the room, relax, and let go.
I agree.
Because we're so often, we always got to be here.
Yes.
Because the people, and, you know, the older you get and then you start having this persona of people, you know, oh, you're the athlete, oh, you're the this, oh, you're the that. And then you start acting that way. Instead of like being who you are, walking your truth.
So hard to keep up that persona.
Just walking your truth.
Right.
So that's why I said, like, that's one of those things where you know you could just be who you are. You could say the craziest thing. I've been in some of my sessions and I've said, and she just be like, she just be looking, be like, okay, well, we gonna talk about that. We're gonna unwrap that.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm gonna be that way regardless, you know, with how I move and just how I express things, just being authentic. But we got to get out of that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot of people that are hurting, and that's why you see the stuff that you're seeing. Like, I forgot the name of this book. I can't remember it, but it was like this lady wrote this book, and she was breaking down why people get sick, why people have pain and illnesses in certain parts of their bodies and all of that kind of stuff, and what, you know, how you can naturally heal and this, that, and the third. And I believe in that because, you know, they say stress is a killer, right?
Stress is a killer. So
if stress can do that, what could a lot of other things do, right? When people say, oh, you know, there was a part in the book, I wish I remembered the name of the book, but it was like, whenever somebody's experiencing back pain, for example, it's like guilt from something. Like, it was like how they broke down this stuff.
Broke it down that deep?
Yeah. Really? Fingers, wrists, knees, hands, stomach,
All
like
targeted to certain type of, I guess,
just things that
stressors,
you're
like
going
things you're
through,
going
right? Like if they say that if you're losing your voice, right, it's because you have something on your mind that you need to get out and share it.
Really?
It's just how they break down. Yeah, it's a cold breakdown. I love it.
I want
wish
to
I
know the
knew
name
the
of this
book.
book.
Yeah, I have to get it in my phone when we
Yeah.
get done. But
Wow.
yeah, it's just just being in
But
that
being
space.
knowledge,able, even just knowing, because a lot of
It's
people
just
have no idea.
understanding.
Yeah.
It's just understanding and then too another thing why I like going to a therapist is because there's a lot of people out here that'll give you the wrong advice.
Right.
So you going to that home girl.
Yep.
And trying to discuss your relationship with somebody who might not be in the best space.
You're right.
And they'll listen. That's the thing. Because y'all drinking wine or y'all chilling, you'll listen. Or if I got an issue and I'm not pleased with my woman and I'm about to make a bad decision that is going to affect my family, I ain't going to have that homeboy that's going to be like, nah, bro, don't do that. Like, let's go home. For the most part, like, man, what it is.
Right, let's go.
So
and then,
like,
where's our predicament? Now you're
what
thinking
I'm saying.
again. Yeah.
That's the other reason why if I'm going to do that, I might as well go to somebody that's going to keep it all the way up.
Right, and give you some sound and solid advice. Not to put you in a worse off situation.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
I know some people, how did you end up finding your therapist?
A referral. Yeah, I reached out to somebody because I'm not good at picking.
Yeah.
So I do my part to make sure I reach out.
And that's kind of cool because actually a lot of guys would never even like consider, therapy, of course, because they're like, oh, you guys are strong. You can handle it. You don't need to talk to anybody.
I'm strong, but another reason I like going to therapy is for confirmation. I like seeing where my growth is at.
Interesting.
Yeah, because some there's dope people out here that's helping others. Yeah, so it's like I'm constantly doing the work. Reading, praying, meditating, being around people, engaging in conversation. I learn something new every day, no matter what. Even if it's down to my son, to somebody who's 90. Like I'm always learning. That's how you stay in the know and being understanding on what life is because things are changing. When you talk to some of the OGs, right, that in their 40s and 50s, and they have the old school mentality of how they were, and it's a different day and age.
Totally different.
So you can't parent the same way.
Nope.
You can't talk to these kids the same way.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? It's different.
Way different.
These kids nowadays, they either running away or they gonna pull up on you. You know what I'm saying? Like
things have definitely changed.
They got access to so many things, so it's like you gotta be understanding and you gotta figure out a way to relate.
Yes.
And the only way you can do that is I gotta talk to my 10-year-old. I gotta talk to my 13-year-old. I gotta have a partner who's about 24, 25, so I can see what that is.
Okay, let's
then I got my and then you gotta have the OGs and people that you can talk to and just get that balance. You gotta have grandma.
Yeah.
You gotta have great grandma, something. Then get you some friends that's from some other cultures and nationalities. Like listen, I love my black people. But we gotta get off this other shit now. Excuse me. We gotta get off this other stuff. Because I just get tired of like, we so pro, but then we so against each other too. So it doesn't make sense. Like, a part of this world is human beings, like love one another, like be strong and represent your race, your culture, your traditions, but still be open to understanding others. That's how you bridge that gap.
And learning, like
you know what I mean? Like that's an important thing. And I know for me, like I'm biracial, my kids are biracial, like we got to get off of that.
We do. And then, like you said, just learning more, being open to things. So therefore, the whole closed-minded idea, it also brings somebody to be closed-minded about therapy and talking about other stuff. Like, a lot of people aren't as open as you are, and a lot of people don't necessarily read.
That's why. And I understand that, but that's again why I like sharing the stuff that I like sharing.
I'm glad that
because
you do this helpful.
We gotta get to that point. Like nobody. Why would I be ashamed of life? Everybody's stuff is different. It's funny because when I do mentoring and I talk to a lot of these young kids, man, and they doing what they doing because they ain't got no money. They feel like that's the answer. But then you look at what's the young rapper that just passed? God bless him.
What is his name? Juice WRLD.
Juice WRLD.
That's right.
He you talking about a 21-year-old kid that got everything at his feet.
Everything.
And you popping lean and you doing certain things. Now you out of here. You know, Mac Miller. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people. Robin Williams.
I would say Robin Williams.
You know
making
what I
other
mean?
people
Like
laugh.
he was, and he ends up committing. So like, it's a lot going on out here. So don't think that just because you got all the money that means that you're happy.
I tell people that all the time. When I sat down with Rob Covington, we talked about like some people just, thinking that, oh, your life is great, this and that. And then when he went to, his session, he said, like you did with progression, he was able to see his progression, like from the first time you walk in there, it's like slumped over, but then as time goes on and doing some of the similar things you do, read, pray, and, just really focusing and honing in on getting your mind right, by the time you're in your like second, third, or fourth session, you start to build that confidence level. And I can tell you're very, very confident. And you're like, I just want other people around us to kind of just take the mask off. And once people are able to take the mask off, then they'll kind of be.
That's how we all functioning. And so many people out here saying how real they are. I just turn the other way.
Right.
Because, for one, when you are a certain thing and you represent that, your peers would know that. You know what I'm saying? It's not nothing that you have to necessarily say.
Right.
It's just like I don't walk around every day like I'm black. Duh. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm a man. Duh. Like, it's just, you feel me? Like, it's just what it is. Like, people will salute you and respect you and they meet you in that space. That's just my opinion. Like, I just don't feel like we got to go out here and say certain things.
So in your opinion, what do you think we can do to help encourage more people to, like, be who they really are and, take the mask off? Like, I know conversations like this, I'm sure there's somebody that's going to hear this conversation and they're going to say, you know what, he's right. And I know having the conversation helps, but how do you think we can reach more people? How do you think that we can change the narrative?
I think what you're doing is you're there. I think too that the way we live our lives is another thing, and just giving the effort, making sure that you're being as real and as genuine in your walk every day, and just understanding the bumps and bruises that no matter what good will come or what bad will come, that you just stay the course. And, just continuing to lead by example. One person that's on one thing, find somebody else and bring them on. Now you got two. And then them two people can add a third. And then you just keep grabbing people. And, that's how you start movements. That's how, you start really changing lives and mindsets by using our platforms. And that's the other thing, too. People feel like, well, I don't know enough people. And no, we all got strength and power.
Exactly.
And numbers and everything, it's a purpose. You're just as important as I am. They just as important as you are, whatever. Like, stop worrying about everybody else. Stay within yourself.
Do you think that's also because of the way people are like, oh, I'm real, I'm this mask, for this particular person? It's like, well, maybe I don't know the right people. And is there such thing as the right people?
In a sense, yes. But the most important is, other than God, is yourself. A lot of people don't know themselves. So how you gonna say what you know about other people?
Absolutely right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we walking around here lost. And then you out here trying to, give somebody else advice, or you trying to make it seem like you got it together. You know what I'm saying? Like, even somebody that tells me I got it together, I tell them I still got a long way to go. I'm still growing and I'm still evolving.
You can be honest, though.
Yeah.
Other people can't. It's kind of a little bit tougher.
Well, that's why I was just saying, just for me.
That's good,
I know how to carry it because, like I said, there have been some times when people will say, like, Dad, bro, like, you seem to be this way or you handle stuff this way, and they don't know what goes on behind. But I just said, man, I'm still trying to understand, you know.
Because you can be real with yourself.
Yeah, because I'm pretty zen all around, but it be sometimes.
I told you that. I'm like,
yeah, but it be sometimes with that south side of calm.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, when I tell you this guy's like so mellow, like zen, I'm like.
I have moments because some things just be so. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, why is it going? You know what I'm saying? There.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? Why are you being a hypocrite? Why are you trying to do this? Why are you judging me? Like, so I might have a moment every day. I don't have any.
And that's okay.
But I own that, and then I bring it back, and then I make sure that, I apologize.
Do you think therapy helped with that? Would you give some credit to therapy for that? Or
I give credit to therapy, God, family, you know, life. Like, it's just, I take something
like,
from
what
everything.
makes you, how did you get to that point? Because in the beginning, you said that you had, like, anger issues.
Well, that's what got me here, to be honest. Like, that's what was the beginning of, like, I was just quiet. Like, I'm an introvert, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just quiet because a part of me too is just like, I'm always observant. I'm walking around rooms, I'm paying attention to what's going on, and I'm peeping before I even say anything. You know what I mean? And that's just, again, who I am, and some of that's been taught, learned behavior.
I was about to say, was it something that was taught, or was it just something happened?
No, because sometimes like the OGs will tell you, man, just be there, because you got to be mindful, you know. And there's power in silence too.
Absolutely.
And not on that negative, like how people be,
No.
You know what I'm saying? But like somebody that can just literally just be humble enough to walk in and listen and see, to understand. So many times we walk in, we gotta be ready to make our presence be felt. But sometimes, shit, when you walk in that thing, your presence is gonna be felt.
Right.
You know what I mean? But especially when you're moving the way that you need to be moving, being genuine, and just being understanding. Like that's a part of power and strength and leadership. You know, when they talk about stories of the Bible and this, that, and the third, like Jesus served. We ain't got enough people serving.
You're right.
Everybody put themselves first.
Leaders.
They'll get some food, they'll do something, but then they won't be like, well, you want some? You want some? You want some? You know what I'm saying? First thing they gonna do, bro, they're starving, hurt. They ain't gonna say nothing, cause they good. So, you know, it's power in this. It's power in how we move, you know, and how we think, you know, and all of that.
Interesting. So what kind of advice would you give someone else, anybody pretty much, dealing with some of the similar issues maybe? Especially like, because we know the younger generation is different now.
Take the pressure off. You know, love yourself and understand that you're important, that life happens to everybody, and do the best you can. Talk to the right people, get the best help you can get. And again, you know, what works for one person, I gotta say this too, because this is important. What works for one person may not work for the next. So everybody has to be understanding on what that looks like. You know what I mean? So some people, therapy may not work, but then you might find a good female group or a good book club or a good something that might shift gears, because that book club might have put you on something, and now it's like, whoa, I just learned something new. Now we have these discussions. Now we, you know what I mean? It's different ways that you can go about it. You know, for me, you know, therapy is important for me, but I'm always like, when I be on Instagram, I'm looking up some of these pastors, these motivational speakers. I'm looking at, you know, parents. I'm watching interviews. I just want to know what people thinking, how they moving. Like,
you have to check out Bishop Joseph Walker III. He's in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay. He actually was on. I recently had a mental health panel discussion in October. Okay. And he was one of the guest speakers there, and he talked about mental health from a spiritual aspect. And he basically broke it down to us, saying, you know, you have to have that spiritual, but you also have to do the work.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that's definitely somebody you can check out. He's amazing.
Absolutely. But again, that's just positive vibes.
Positive vibes.
Even if you watch dance videos all day or something, just be on something positive.
Instead of looking and then like, oh, why don't I look like this person? Or I need to go get this done. I need to make this adjustment to my body. I need to, you know,
to my queens,
post this.
Please stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody beautiful, man. Like, to somebody, there ain't no disrespect. Because the other part of this too is y'all living a life and getting some stuff that you think that you want until they make you sick or you up out of here because of your decisions. So we can do our part, man. If you feel a certain way, that's why you can eat healthy. That's why you can work out. You can literally change your body by putting in and doing the work.
Absolutely.
And you know what? If that ain't for you, just own it.
Be who you are.
Because it's crazy, like, I done seen the most beautiful woman be single, no kids. And I done seen somebody that I'm not attracted to that could be married and have 4 kids that I feel is attractive. You know what I'm saying? So everybody got their own little thing. Just walk in your truth, whatever that look like. But stop making excuses and do the work, not only for the queens, but for the kings too.
Them too.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like making sure you mentally doing your work, you know, being around the right men that's gonna hold you accountable and lift you up. Have some people, have some good solid brothers that you can talk to.
Right.
All of that's important on both ends.
Right. So I know you're usually out in the community a lot, and as you sit down, you've given some very sound advice to the men, to the women, on how to appreciate yourselves as far as from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint. Tell me what more you have going on. I know you have your charity.
So 21 Reasons to Give is the name of my foundation. 21 Principles. Basically what we do is we go in your community, we find where it's lacking and provide a need. But I've been doing a lot of work with Next Level Boys Academy.
Okay.
Which is on the south side, founder Gary Davis. You know, it's a diversion program, but it's starting to take a different turn to you know, where they're leading and going. But it's just a program that has helped a lot of young men as well as fathers.
Nice.
So it's just, you know, the great work that he's doing and the solid team down there, and I'm grateful that he's allowed me to be a part of that. Outside of that, you know, just a couple other hustles that I'm doing, just parenting. You know, that's the main thing. As y'all can hear all the noise that my 2 back there
She
doing.
just did like this. She said.
But yeah, I think for me that's like the most important thing. I've passed up on a lot of work and a lot of other things because I'm trying to be around for them more.
Right.
They may not appreciate it now, but hopefully one day when they get a little older, they can and understand. So, I love y'all.
So, thank you again so much for sitting down with me. You really are a true inspiration. Keep doing the work. And I know that what we've discussed, I'm sure it's going to be able to help so many other people.
Part 2?
Part 2. I'm with it.
Y'all heard it.
Yep, I'm with it.